What is perfectly legal but creepy as hell? Story 1. Going on a vacation with your fiancé, only to return home alone and immediately lawyer up and not answer questions about their whereabouts. Edit. R.I.P. Gabby. Story 2. Calling your child sexy, right up there with moms who don't seem to understand that their son is not their boyfriend. What kind of weirdo threatens their sons? Spouse girlfriend with the line, "The first tits he loved were mine." Story 3. Leaving a piece of your body behind for your future generations. My great-great-grandpa did this by having his skull revolved and turned into a goblet for his daughter, my great-grandma. Lasted about a few years before someone stole it. Story 4. A national newspaper having a countdown for when a child actress becomes legal for intimacy. Answers to questions that will surely come. Yes, The Sun, UK. M. Watson. Story 5. Technically, you can stand on the sidewalk and stare into someone's house through a window. It's not illegal as long as you stay off of their property, but it's really freaking creepy. Story 6. When I was a child, we had a creepy, horrible neighbor that would harass my family constantly. One of the things he did was stand at the corner of his yard and videotape me playing in a pool with my friends. We were around 8. My parents called the police, but were told that it's legal if he's on his property. Edit. This was in the US and 20 years ago, so laws might be different by now. Answer. I had a neighbor like this growing up. He never creeper on me or my brothers, but one time my dad saw him up on his roof, looking into the bathroom window of the house next door, presumably watching the 16-year-old girl in there. My dad put a huge blue tarp up against our shared fence, like 10 feet tall, and told the entire neighborhood why. The guy complained, but couldn't do anything, and eventually moved. Story 7. My dad is currently in an injury case against his old job. There's been a car outside his house filming him for the last couple months, trying to catch him doing compromising things to disprove his injuries. That's very creepy. Story 8. Saying, think of yourselves as sisters when introducing a much younger new wife to one's adult daughter. My father-in-law did this. Edit. Wow, this really blew up. Holy cow. Thanks for the awards, kind people. Some context. My Fael was in his late 50s, his new bride in her early 20s, which was indeed younger than his daughter, my wife, as creepy as his comment was, made on first introduction as we all stood there in my doorway after they showed up unannounced. I don't think he consciously meant to imply the incestuous subtext. It was more like he was crowing about how he had attracted such a young wife. But his emotional intelligence and self-awareness were exactly that low that he could say such a thing. He was a really difficult person in general. In the end, the marriage was short and tumultuous, with him eventually accusing her of physical abuse and theft. I think they were both using each other, and they both got more than they bargained for. Story 9. In some states, it's actually legal to take upskirt pictures with your smartphone, as long as they are wearing panties. Super creepy as hell. I only know this because a judge ruled a guy innocent for doing just that because of a law that was worded a certain way. No clue if the law has changed to include upskirt pics. Answer. I've worked in construction and built some Walmart shopping centers and distribution centers. Had a site manager on a job tell me that Walmart used to have a super specific level of shine they wanted on their floors when they were finished and opened up for public shopping. However, with the ever-increasing presence of cell phones and better cameras, they had to begin to dull the floors because people were able to just grab upskirts by taking pics of the floor under people. Story 10. Nobody is saying you can't eat a banana dairy, but you can't just stand on a street corner for 30 minutes and suck on it. You have to actually take a bite. Story 11. Parking across the street from an elementary school with binoculars. Technically not illegal, but you definitely get the cops called on you and make the news. Answer. I work in commercial construction, and we build a lot of schools. When we complete a project, part of my job is to take drone photos of the completed building. Typically, by the time I get around to taking these drone photos, school has already started. So, on several occasions, I look like I'm just some random guy standing out in the parking lot, taking drone photos of an elementary school during a normal school day. It's not a great look. I've encountered the cops a couple of times, but they've always been pretty cool about it. Story 12. I believe the act of cannibalism itself is legal, so long as you didn't take down anyone to do it. If your homie gives you his arm to gnaw on, it's fair game. Story 13. Media outlets typically disguising it with comedy, putting up turns 18 on countdowns for child actresses. Natalie Portman was 13 when she got a countdown on her local radio station. Fudge's Sake Mary-Kate and Ashley were like 4 on Full House when they got their countdown. Story 14. It's technically legal to check if a door is locked, as long as you don't enter without permission at it. Depending on where you live, this could apply to both houses and cars. Edit. You won't find any laws permitting this activity, but laws associated with it are generally based on circumstantial evidence or rely on proving the suspect's intent. An arrest may be likely, but proving intent is difficult, and charges might not stick. Results may vary in your precinct. Answer. I live in a pretty low-crime neighborhood, and hooligans still walk up and down the street, checking all the car doors pretty regularly. The local PD puts out PSAs about this constantly, which have been getting increasingly frustrated in tone as the months go by. I half expected the next one to straight up say if you leave your car unlocked and someone lifts your chute, we can do fudge all about it. Edit. Yes, y'all, I know theft is a crime. Please stop telling me. Story 15. This one hits close to home. A good friend of mine lives in a major East Coast city. As a single woman, she is extra cautious. She was the victim of a known local Instagram celebrity this weekend. Basically, this guy follows people, guys and girls around, and records them. When they get annoyed and tell him to stop, he gets more and more obnoxious, trying to get a reaction. He's careful not to cross the legal line for stalking, etc., and does it in public, so be expectation of privacy. He then posts the inevitable freak out online. I'm not going to share the page. My friend made the cut because I don't want to grace this troll with the page views. Story 16. Those weird kid clothes that are like, I suck mom's boob or something. I found shoot like that at Spencer's and thought it was fudge gross. Story 17. I can go put up a camera with a giant lens and set it up to take pictures every 30 seconds while pointed at a popular playground full of children, while I also fly a drone taking pictures of the same playground. The act of taking pictures in public is not illegal, even if the subject doesn't want their picture taken. It's how the photos are used that determines if permission is needed, and, as as long as I'm using it for my own weird, creepy personal reasons, rather than trying to publish a book of them or put them in a movie, then it's not illegal. Of course, this only applies in Canada and the US. Other countries may have different privacy laws, and you do need the appropriate drone license, but I could still do it all day, every day. Story 18. Purity balls, dances that shoot where girls pledge their virginity to their fathers until they are married. Ooh. Story 19. Staring into someone's window from the street to watch Jeopardy on their TV because your fudge mom canceled the cable when she found your vape. Story 20. Puppy mills or backyard dog breeders that breed any dog with a genetic issue that affects their health or quality of life. Story 21. Uploading your kid's life onto Facebook for strangers to view before the kid even knows what the internet is. Edit. Remember how when you first started using the internet, there was no trace of you. You didn't exist online. The power was in our hands to create our digital footprint. We could expose as much or as little as we want, and we still can. That classic scene where your parents take out the old baby pictures to embarrass you in front of your new partner literally won't be a thing anymore. Imagine logging online for the first time to find more pictures of you growing up than you've ever seen before, and realizing people you don't know have had access to them for years, commenting on them and liking them. Your parents' old friends that they haven't spoke to in 10 years and have never met you. Answer. My folks have the hardest time with this. We decided before our son was born that no pictures of him can be posted on social media and let everyone know. He's not even 1 yet, and I've had to request 4 family members to take down photos and had 2 fights with my parents about it. We created a shared album when he was born that has at least 300 photos on it. They can see at any time. Apparently, it doesn't mean anything if it can't be liked by my mom's high school friends. Story 22. Corporations influencing government via donations and the non-stop revolving door between the two. 1. Fossil fuel companies are preventing any real kind of progress to carbon reduction targets. 2. Pharmaceutical and medical companies blocking healthcare reform. Story 23. My old boss who asked out. My coworker, she was 18. He was 38. I later learned he was hitting on her before she turned 18. Company fired him, but refused to ban him from the store. She had to quit. Story 24. Secretly filming young girls at a public beach. I saw a guy get busted by the cops, and they just had to let him walk away, because it's not a crime. Story 25. I know in some places upskirting, taking pictures of a woman's skirt without her permission, is still somehow legal. Story 26. Taking advantage of your kid's talent for personal gain. Child celebrities' parents are often guilty of this. Story 27. A grown man giving expensive gifts to a teenage girl he's not related to or particularly close to. I came across this ask after reading a post where a woman said her husband gave their neighbor's daughter a 300 bracelet without discussing it with her, and the vibes were super creepy. Technically not illegal, but hella pedo vibes there. Edit. The price was 300, not 3,000, though still creepy. Anyone wanting to read the story, someone posted a link below. Story 28. Harassing someone through people. If you call the police or try to make any sort of protection order, they never actually contacted you, so there's nothing you can do. It doesn't matter how many flying monkeys you have to fight off. Story 29. That classic scene from American movies where a group of high schoolers raise money by washing cars in bikinis. Seems like a pervert magnet. Edit. This is just bringing me more questions. No one raised hell if a girl ended up being harassed. Were parents or maybe cops assigned to at least look after these minors? What did the press say? This seems like the perfect base for a moral panic. Story 30. You can legally fake your own passing, as long as you are not doing so to flee a crime or debt reasons. Legal as in, there are no laws against it in the US. I have no idea about other countries though. Story 31. Dating stepfathers once they're not stepfathers. Edit spelling. The ex Couchmaster 307 for correcting me. Story 32. You can find your town's unpaid property tax registry fairly easy by looking on your town's website. To explain this very simply, you can cover other people's property taxes. This gives them two options. One, they reimburse you for the money you fronted for their property taxes. Or two, the property reaches a deadline where if the property owner hasn't paid you back for the money you fronted, you become the legal owner of the property because you have paid the property taxes. You could essentially buy a property worth $80,000, example, by only putting down a few $100,000 in property tax fees. You either make all your money back when the original property owner pays you for the money you fronted, or you put a few $100,000 down and get a property worth a lot more than your initial investment. Edit. I'd like to include this avoid confusion. I should have started with this portion. No, you cannot go pay the property tax of any building you'd like to own. You need to go through something called a tax deed sale. This is a legal process that properly transfers ownership. Typically, tax deed sales are found on your local website. Not all states offer tax deed sales. Sorry for any, confusion. Story 33. Standing naked within view of all your neighbors, so long as you are with the confines of your house, like inside an open door, or as seen through a window. At least, it NC anyway. Story 34. Any image captured from public property is considered fair game, even if it's zoomed in and a quarter mile away through a telephoto lens right into your bedroom window. Story 35. Owning a replica human skull and then filling the brain cavity with that pink spongy shrimp candy thing. Story 36. Brutally torturing and take down trillions of animals annually worldwide via factory farming for no necessary reason, destroying our health and environment while we're at it, as well as causing widespread antibiotic resistance, which will paralyze almost all healthcare in the future, and occasionally causing a pandemic. Story 37. Taking your kids to political protests and making them hold a sign. These kids have zero concept of why they are there, yet they are exploited by these parents. Story 38. In guessing there's no law against peeing into someone else's urinal while they're in the middle of peeing in it. Story 39. In Texas, it's encouraged to monitor pregnant women if you think they are attempting to have an abortion. One might even be compensated for their efforts. Story 40. Child beauty pageants should be outlawed. Jesus Christ, not much that's more creepy while still legal. Story 41. You starting an LLC with a board composed entirely of AI, no humans at all. And then that LLC creating new LLCs which are also composed entirely of AI. And then those AI-run companies being allowed to spend money on political campaigns and buy land. Story 42. 18-year-olds being able to sign up for the military or participate in adult content, but not able to buy cigarette lighters. WTF. Story 43. Child marriage, legal in some states of US and many countries. How the hell can they not get rid of this law? Story 44. Door-to-door solicitation, religion, knives, energy, etc. My home is my safe space, and the fact that people can just show up creeps me out. I never answer the door, but it really just seems weird to me. Story 45. Meeting someone as a child, deciding that you're going to marry them, and pursuing them romantically but not doing anything intimacy until the day they turn 18. Story 46. Catcalling, apps tracking through multiple apps across your phone. Alexa, solicitation, teenage boys in lifted pickup trucks. Story 47. Cops strip, searching non-convicted people. Just because you arrest someone, you strip search them. People are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but if you are arrested, you get stripped. Story 48. Many countries in the world doesn't have a minimum age for marriage, as well as many states in the US. It's somehow legal to marry a child as long as their parents signed off on it. Story 49. Sending unsolicited private picture, male body part pics TBH. I feel like it shouldn't be legal and be classified as indecent exposure. It really isn't all that different from flashing someone on the street. Story 50. Gay panic defense law. Not just creepy, you can legally take down a gay person who flirts with you without them knowing you don't like it in 39 US states. It's insane. Story 51. Drake, in his mid-30s, renting out a restaurant to take a model on a date to celebrate her 18th birthday. Story 52. Child brides TBH. I hear lots of horror stories of parents signing off their 14-year-old baby in the arms of someone that is 2 to 3 times their age, most of it being religious reasons. But in my eyes, that's no excuse. Story 53. Medical students perform non-consensual pelvic exams on anesthetized women at teaching hospitals. It's only illegal in like 10 states. Story 54. For workers' comp claims, the insurance company legal team can hire a private detective to follow you around to make sure you're not faking the injury or claim. Answer: I did this in my early 20s. Yeah, it's a very creepy job. You have to constantly survey them. The worst feeling in the world because you had to present evidence. And sometimes the people would have days when they felt well enough to do things that they wouldn't be otherwise. So some would present this as evidence. Of course, they would lose their benefits. Sometimes it was a temporary loss, and they would appeal. And sometimes it was permanent, and they had to pay back a lot of money. Story 55. In South Africa, legal ages for things are weird. 12 bars is the age a kid can get an abortion without parental consent. 16 years is the legal age for intimacy consent. 18 years is the legal age for drinking as well as for having a driving license. But 16 to 70 MRRs, not 100 sure, is the legal age for a motorbike license. Story 56. Parents taking children under the age of 16 to get a Brazilian wax. The specialist I see has plenty of horror stories of refusing to wax a child's private parts because the child was shaking and crying on the table while the mom was insisting it happened. Story 57. In 34 states, you can legally eat dog. In 34 states, zoophilia is legal. In 34 states, English is the official language. Story 58. Sitting right next to a person in an otherwise empty bus. Just you and me, dude. Why you sitting next to me? Story 59. UK age of consent is 16. A couple girls from my school had BFS in their late 20s, 30s before they had finished year 11. Those girls became mothers very young, so have basically missed out on their youth. The mental age gap is so vast, IDK. Why anyone in their late 20s would want to be with a teenager? Creepy. If the age of consent is 16, I think that should only apply to other teens under 18. Otherwise, you get pedos preying on young teens. Story 60. Phones listening to you all the time and then sending you an ad for the exact thing you just spoke about. Story 61. Video game anime characters who are prepubescent but thousands of years old. They are all sexualized, and these people who enjoy this content will defend it until they are blue in the face. It is a disgusting trope, and you guys know what it's really about. Story 62. Kissing your parents and siblings on the lips as an adult. Any adults, really. Sorry, Grandma, but GTFO here with that slippery dry oyster meat. No thanks. Story 63. The fact that there are a different set of rules between ex-spouses and total strangers. My house got broken into and some of my stuff was stolen. I called the cops. Oh, it was my ex-husband. Family court. Total bullshit. Story 64. Adult men walking up to you and asking for a hug. I didn't know this was a thing until I moved to St. Louis from my small Indiana town. There was a guy that frequently went up to students, including me, at the high school I go to and middle school I went to. He actually got a hug a few times, mainly from an autistic girl. She's super kind, but she doesn't know how to set boundaries. And each time he's been extremely touchy, and the hug has been long. My school district wouldn't do anything about him until he literally put his hand down some poor girl's pants. Now he's not allowed to hang out around school property, and he has a restraining order for the girl he took advantage of. Pretty light punishment, in my opinion. Story 65. When two heavily pregnant women press their bellies up against each other. Don't get me wrong, I'm great with kids, but that makes me cringe. Story 66. A lot of states allow doxing. Imagine pissing off someone so much they publish all your legal information just to ruin you. Story 67. I grew up in the Mormon church and had to do worthiness interviews with my bishop, who was always a man, and usually at least 50. It was standard procedure to ask children about their intimacy habits and follow up with asking for more details. Story 68. According to laws regarding abortion in Texas, you can fudge your sister, get her pregnant, then rat her out for $10,000 for getting an abortion. You won't even go to jail for a forbidden topic. Story 69. Standing issue abortion clinics just to tell women they're going to hell. Young children posting stupid TikToks, actually them being on the internet at all. Story 70. Some states bestiality isn't illegal. The age of consent is 16, and you can marry your cousin. Somewhere there's a guy who's married to his 16-year-old cousin, and their dog gets in on the action, and it's all totally legal. Story 71. Iguanas are so bad in Florida. It is required by law that if you see one, you're supposed to eliminate it on sight. Story 72. Teachers and principals in elementary or Any age group, really. Paddling students. I don't care what my kid did. You do not spank them. No child deserves that whatsoever. Story 73. Sexualized children, clothing, and gendered stuff. Young girl costumes containing form-fitting leggings. Boy clothes saying, "My babysitter is hot," or saying, "Lock up your daughters," etc. Also, gendered stuff feels creepy and weird, like deodorant being Lavender Rose Beauty, Soft Women's Deodorant, and Manly Ocean Woodchopper Forest Pine Deodorant. It rubs me the wrong way, because at the end of the day, we want to smell good. Why gender the smell of pine trees or roses? Story 74. Spam calls. For the love of God, if I hear one more time that my car warranty is about to expire, I think I might put my phone through the garbage disposal. Story 75. That law enforcement officers routinely lie in the dogged pursuit of a conviction, pie-in-the-sky ideals. But I think it should be explicitly illegal for any government official in any public service role to deceive anyone for any reason outside the specific exceptions of 1, the military intel officers in the context of war or preventing war, and 2, a short-term circumstance where someone's life is literally in danger from a knife-wielding maniac, and you need to deceive the perp in real time in order to save a life. That's it. Don't fudge lie. Story 76. Recording someone else's property from the street, legally as long as you're not filming into a bathroom. You can get away with it usually. Story 77. The fact that if you violation someone in Texas and someone aborts the baby, you can sue them for 10K edit, wording. Story 78. I should not end up on TikTok without my consent, no matter how eccentric or hideous I am. As much as I love to see people being exposed for dislike tirades, it should be illegal to post video and pictures that show faces of ordinary people not aware they are being filmed. Story 79. 18-year-old girls posting adult content online is already bad enough. But to add to the weirdness, some of them will modify and edit their photos to look several years younger. It's technically legal, and I expect it to be more popular in the days to come.